Oh, when will we learn? Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most overhyped games of all time.
Is there anything that this game doesn't have?
For this list, we're looking at those games that we were totally psyched for during the lead up to release, only to end up massively disappointed by the game's underwhelming experience upon launch.
They look pissed as shit at you. Do they have a reason to be?
Yep.
Number 10, Enter the Matrix.
Matrix video game is the most incredible game you've ever played.
When talking about good subjects for an MMO, what holds better promise than entering the Matrix? Produced by the Wachowskis and released when we still loved the series, Enter the Matrix was unfortunately filled with glitches, awkward controls, and really bland environments.
Oh, I can't watch this.
More importantly, you couldn't play as the One or his friends. Instead, you took on a side story that resembled a poor man's Max Payne. Oh yeah, and spoon or no spoon, those wheels are square. Number 9, Homefront.
Brother Jacob, why are you so reluctant to serve your country in its time of need?
Following a resistance movement fighting against a unified Korean occupation in the United States, Homefront was set to be a great game with an intriguing story. THQ poured so much money into Homefront's marketing campaign, hoping it'd be the next Call of Duty. Featuring an army parade at E3, bringing in Hollywood screenwriter John Milius, who wrote and directed Red Dawn, and releasing thousands of red balloons over San Francisco just to promote their title.
Ever notice how quick the bodies disappear? Mass graves, that's what I've heard.
The game was set to be the next great military shooter, but a staggeringly short campaign and a bland multiplayer component ruined any shot of that happening. Fans were left reeling by the game and its lack of cohesion, and THQ's stock dropped 26% following Homefront's release, forcing them to close Chaos Studios.
Kim Jong-un will teach you to unlock your country's natural resources, bringing prosperity to all. It is a gift to you.
Number 8, Fable series.
Here lived a boy and his family, a boy dreaming of greatness, of one day being a hero.
Developer Peter Molyneux is credited with fueling this hype monster himself, having shamelessly claimed that he was creating the best game ever with Fable 1, over the span of 4 years with a team of 70 developers. Sure, it was an enjoyable game, but it really didn't deliver on the many revolutionary promises, and it ushered in the age of very polarizing morality choices for games.
There's nothing left for you in Oakville, and if you'd stayed, you'd be as dead as the rest of them.
Oddly enough, Molyneux learned nothing from the experience and did the exact same thing for Fable 2 and Fable 3. His name is now synonymous with broken promises and ridiculous hype.
It allows you to be whoever you want to be, whether it's good or evil or kind or cruel or pure or corrupt.
Number 7, Mighty Number 9.
Even if it's not perfect, it's better than nothing. At least that's my opinion.
Considered a spiritual successor to the Mega Man series, Mighty Number 9 received widespread attention before any gameplay was ever shown, and it made up its $900,000 Kickstarter goal in a mere 2 days. The development process was even detailed in a documentary, and fan input was occasionally considered through opinion polls. However, after being delayed multiple times, many backers were immediately disappointed by the game's visuals looking drastically worse than what was originally promised, while those who could look past the downgrade were let down by the game's underwhelming levels and frequent frame rate drops. Safe to say, this was not the mighty Mega Man follow-up that we were promised.
You kill an enemy, and you can absorb their power-ups, stuff that'll make you faster and stronger, and make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Number 6, Spore.
And you actually start this game kind of in a drop of water as a very, very small single-cell creature. And right off the bat, you basically just have to live, survive, reproduce.
Who doesn't want to play God while simultaneously destroying him by turning evolution into a game? That sounds promising, right? Originally titled Sim Everything, Spore was meant to be an intricate and deep simulation game that billed itself as your own personal universe in a box. Unfortunately, the game actually boiled down to a series of loosely related mini-games, and it never really evolved past that. Number 5, Watch Dogs.
One of our contractors ran a search for the hackers in the Merlot job. You're assigned Aiden Pierce. Take him out.
Touted as being the GTA for a new generation, Watch Dogs was set to blow everyone's minds. The developers claimed that it would be like no open-world game before it, featuring full control of Chicago, distinct NPCs, a realistic hacking mechanism, and a totally new game engine. The game's showing at E3 excited prospective players even more, but when the game was released, it proved immensely disappointing. The gameplay was standard open-world stuff, and the hacking was reduced to a simple button press. While it certainly wasn't a bad game, it turned out to be just another GTA clone with a fresh coat of paint.
You don't look 17.
Do I look like a bad boy?
Now you look like a wild card.
Number 4, Daikatana.
How many we lose? Only 4 this time. Looks like my luck holding out. Too bad for you.
Revered for years as the prime example of too much hype and no payoff, John Romero's Daikatana was a video game meme before memes were a thing, thanks to a very confusing ad campaign about the Quake and Doom alumnus making us his bitch.
Whoa. What was that all about?
Intended as his magnum opus, the plot therein involved travel through various time periods to find a magical sword. However, it arrived 3 years too late, ran on outdated software, had poor AI, and basically unplayable design. Romero even got his girlfriend to pose for Playboy in order to promote this game. I suppose that ad campaign does technically still apply to her, poor girl. Number 3, Aliens, Colonial Marines.
Rise and shine, Marines. This isn't a drill and you aren't in Kansas anymore.
Set in the actual Alien universe, Colonial Marines was set to be the official sequel to the 1980s classic, complete with story tie-ins, meticulously detailed and recreated settings from Aliens, and even the voices of Michael Biehn and Lance Henriksen, reprising their career-defining roles.
I'm Corporal Hicks from the USS Sulaco. I've been held under duress for months by Weyland Yutani.
We don't know what's scarier though, fighting a real-life alien or how this game turned out. It looked downright ugly, especially for a AAA release. It lacked any sort of tension or badass gun-toting heroics found in the movies, and the AI was so laughably dumb that the game became an unintentional comedy in the process. It was just a disaster through and through.
Tagged another one!
Number 2, No Man's Sky.
It's one of the most anticipated video games that have come out in years. It stole the show at E3.
The current hot-button issue of overhyped titles, Hello Games essentially wanted to make a fun little indie game, but employed some questionable marketing techniques along the way. You'd think this game was the second coming, the hype was so great, as the media and gamers alike gaped at the imaginative visuals, breathtaking scope, and seemingly limitless playtime. It looked to challenge what video games could really accomplish, and was touted as being the answer to a seemingly complacent market. Well, a small, repetitive, and somewhat incomplete indie game was all it really was, with many, and I say many of its touted promises not really making it into the final version, thus eliciting red-hot rage in gamers, the likes of which have not been seen for years.
Can you run into other people, other players on the game?
Yes, but the chances of that are incredibly rare, just because of the size of what we're building.
Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Let's reload.
We're clear.
Move up.
Number 1, Duke Nukem Forever.
What? Did you think I was gone forever?
I'm sure that when this game began development, the irony in the choice of title was clearly not what they had in mind. But 15 years after it began development, Forever was more than just a nice little pun. Duke had jumped game studios, game engines, and several console generations before making his raunchy return.
You can polish my brass anytime.
Bonjour, monsieur. Qui peut soit à votre service?
Sadly, his arrival was marred by a bit of an identity crisis, as the game couldn't really seem to decide whether it wanted to be a modern or retro shooter, and subsequently failed at both. The humor fell flat, having boobies in your game was no longer a big deal, and it was, not fun.
Yeah, but after 12 years, it should be.
So, do you agree with our list? Which games do you consider to be the most overhyped of all time? For more top 10s that will live up to the hype published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
You got me in.